No, your eyes do not deceive you. I do indeed have a massive cock on my T-shirt. There you go. Don't ask me why. My sister got it for me. I do like a good T-shirt. I like a colourful T-shirt. And why would you not have one with a huge, angry cockerel on there? Anyway, now the carry-on stuff is over. Bit of a divisive one. I think this might be a bit 50-50, this one, actually. David Moyes interested in Vladimir Coufal. We can't do anything about that because he's out of contract. Actually, do we have another year? I think we did another year. No, I think he's just out of contract, right? I think he is in his optional year, as it were. Tomas Soucek, very, very different, really, isn't he? He's a sort of mainstay of the team, vice-captain, and Graham Potter seems to like him. I mean, he's sort of thrived under three managers. Say what you want about Lopetegui, he was still playing well under Lopetegui. And I know different people's perceptions of what playing well is very, very different. And I think as long as you're judging Tomas Soucek on what he can do rather than what he can't do, he's been a very, very effective player for West Ham. But I do think it's divisive. So whenever we do one of these videos, or whenever we speak about Tomas Soucek, there are a number of people who just want to get rid of him. I think because of his lack of pace, his lack of first touch, passing technique. So I think there are a number of people who just get rid of him anyway, and there are a number of people who just appreciate the huge number of goals he's scored and sort of what he's done for West Ham. In fact, I think there's a crossover. I think the people that maybe would like to see him moved on still appreciate what he's done. It's quite funny, actually, because I saw relatively recently, sometimes you see a post up on social media and it makes a complaint about something that is not even prevalent. So I'll give you a good example. Actually, Gio made me aware of this. It was after the Brentford game. He said, have you seen those people saying, can't believe that some West Ham fans want Graham Potter out? And I had seen him. He said, have you seen anybody that wants Graham Potter out? I said, no. And we get to look at quite a lot. Obviously, we've got a forum, hammerschat.com. We've got these YouTube channels with all the comments on them. Have a look on social media. And not at any point have we seen anybody saying, Graham Potter, get rid now. But people were saying, can't believe West Ham fans want Graham Potter out. We had the same thing with Tomas Soucek, which was why all the hatred for Tomas Soucek? And you sort of look around and think, I can't see anyone hating Tomas Soucek. There's some people saying, that they don't think he'll survive under Graham Potter, that maybe it's time to move him on. Hatred, I didn't think there was any. And I think sometimes people expect, it's almost like they predict that there's going to be a complaint, and then there's no complaint, but they still put the post out anyway, and then moan about the complaint that doesn't exist. That makes any sense. I think we got that with Tomas Soucek. He's that type of player. But David Moyes wants him, and there's no surprise there, is there? Really, he's got form for this type of stuff. I think there is a comparison between Fellaini and Soucek, but in many respects, Soucek has out Fellaini. But what you've got is a situation where Fellaini, because he sort of crashed into a box, very tall guy. Fellaini was more mobile, but he didn't work as hard as Soucek. But he would sort of gate crash the box and score headers, and he was sort of unmarkable in the air. And it was quite interesting, really, that the first thing David Moyes did when he went to Old Trafford is he took Fellaini. That of all the players he worked with, I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him, and he's going to come to Manchester United with me. So he has got form. And going back to a former club and going and getting that guy that is, that's really, really important and fundamental to the way he plays. The irony about Moyes is, when I look at the way he's playing and I look at some of his players, particularly if I look in the midfield, I'm looking at players I think Moyes wouldn't buy those guys. So I think one of the reasons he came in and he was doing so well is he had players that were fast enough that they could play on the front foot. I think it was against Manchester United, funnily enough, I think. And they were, almost all the Everton players were in the Man U half. And that's just not what Moyes did at West Ham, particularly towards the end. And so at the moment, I think he's being a pragmatist in many respects, like Graham Potter's been a pragmatist. I don't think Moyes is necessarily playing the way he wants to play. But because of the players at his disposal, he's going to play maybe a faster paced game than he might ordinarily like. But obviously he's going to get, once he gets his feet under the table, and I do think it's going to be a really good job for him. I'm very jealous of that stadium, by the way. he's going to start bringing in his own players. And I think Soucek, it totally makes sense. I can totally understand why Moyes would want Soucek. That's only one half of it, though. Will Soucek want to move? Well, it's not even one and a half. It's 1/3 of it. Would the club entertain a bid for Soucek, which basically means would Potter want to get rid of him to generate some funds? I don't think it'd be a load of funds because of his age. He's 30. It's obviously his birthday the other day. But also the other thing is, would Soucek want to move there? This is a man, I think we often talk about how much we might want Soucek or how much we love Soucek, but how much does Soucek love West Ham? Well, loads. Loads and loads and loads. So it may be that he doesn't want to, but obviously there's going to be some connection there between him and David Moyes. I do think this is a tough one, and look, the question is, would you do it? And I don't know. Let's say it's 20 million. I think we'd do well to get 20 million, but I also do think that Moyes would probably sanction Everton to spend 20 million on Tomas Soucek, because Soucek is Mr. Reliable. He is. You absolutely know what you are going to get from him. He's a survivor. I said this under Lopetegui. I thought he was out. As soon as we hired Lopetegui, I thought Soucek is out. But then earlier on this season, he was scoring goals. He was doing well. I thought, no, okay. He was one of the first names on the team sheet, really. Then when Potter came in, I thought, he's out. He's gone now. Well, he's not. And he is a survivor. And I appreciate everything that Soucek has done. And in all honesty, when I say this is going to be 50-50, there will be some people with splinters in their arse that are sitting on the fence. And I'm feeling a little bit that way with it, because do I think in the long term that Graham Potter will utilise Soucek? I probably think not. And I do think, do I think Guido Rodriguez will be off first? Yes. But I start working my way back through the midfielders. Is Potter more likely to keep James Ward-Prowse or Tomas Soucek? I think it might be Ward-Prowse. Edson Alvarez or Tomas Soucek? That's a tougher one, but I think he'd probably more likely to keep Edson Alvarez. We have to assume that he's going to bring in a midfielder. If you look at how his team's played against Brighton, his team played when he was at Brighton, he still doesn't really have that type of player. What's going to happen with Tomas Soucek? Well, we're going to find out next month. Or this month. Yeah. We don't know about that. I just think some midfielders are going to come in. I don't think Carlos Soler's deal will be rubber stamped, particularly with his wage demands. He's on do you know this? He's on £230,000 a week at Paris Saint-Germain, and he wants to keep those wages. I'm not arguing with that bit. I don't know what it would be like to earn 230 grand a week. I like to think that if I earned 230 grand a week and I was a multi-millionaire, which he better bloody be if he's making that money, that I wouldn't mind moving. I'd be happy enough to take half of that for happiness, right? So you think that, but you don't know. Maybe you're in that position, and maybe you get used to 230 grand a week. But if that's what he's demanding, he doesn't want to take a drop in wages, then we can't do that. I mean, he's not. I think pick the best player wherever you think the best player. Mo Salah, right? Even if we wanted Mo Salah, we couldn't afford to pay him 230 grand a week. So we certainly can't afford to play somebody who may or may not be a first team player. I think he's decent. I think he's got some talent. I think he's got some skills, but we can't afford it. So my point is, I think we've got 3 or 4 midfielders going out, which means some are coming in. Probably answers my question, and we've got to keep Soucek, really, haven't we? I don't think the 20 million is probably enough for us to do anything at all. The irony is, Banzuzi, who we were linked with, will be going to Leicester. I mean, crikey, they need some players, don't they? But down the Championship, I'm not so sure. I've seen some clips of Banzuzi, and he looked really decent. And sometimes you can watch a clip and you can think, well, this is exactly what we need. The truth of the matter is, I hadn't heard from him. I hadn't heard of him before January. I didn't even know. He wasn't even on my radar. So I'm never that annoyed about missing out on players I don't know about. And it's very easy to watch a few clips of a player and say, he's what we need. We've got to have him. But I do think we're going to bring in some with a bit more energy, probably a bit more technique. I think that's going to come in. Coufal, I'd be sorry to see him go, but he's been a really, really good servant. But I think his time is probably up, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. I sort of love everything about these guys. They've been a really important part of West Ham's recent history, if you want. And I think they'll be remembered really, really well. No doubt about it. But I guess that's it. Is he going to do it? Are we going to do it? Will that be too tempting? Would it be one of those things that suits all parties? He's been a great servant for West Ham, and then he goes and finishes his career with David Moyes. And there'll be no hard feelings. If that happens, he's not going to get Paul Ince, does he? Soucek's not going to come back and get booed and all that type of stuff. He would always have a hero's welcome at West Ham. He really would. I've got to make a decision. I feel I've got to make a decision because I'm making a video about it. It's tough. This is a tough one. And I'll go back to something myself and Gio did once, which was we were doing, when we used to do a cup of tea, we did a cup of tea once, and Gio said to me, we had a question come in, do you like, in terms of takeaway, do you like a Chinese takeaway or do you like an Indian takeaway? Do you like a curry? And I sat there, this is tough. This is tough because I like both, right? I like both. And I think I'd said, well, do you know what? I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Gio. I think I said something like this. I think, bearing in mind, the last one I had was a curry. I think I might go with curry. But it was tough. It was tough. I love Chinese. I love the fried noodles and chicken and sweet corn soup. There's a lot of stuff I like in Chinese, right? So anyway, I chose curry. And it was only about a week later, and somebody said, they spoke about it, and they said, well, can't believe Gonzo doesn't like Chinese. And it was that binary thing again, because I hadn't chosen Chinese. I had these two things, and it was tough. But because I'd chosen curry, I did automatically, I went, you don't like Chinese then. And it's that binary thing that's very prevalent now. So I'm very aware of that. But it is a tough decision. I think I'd get rid of him. If it came to it. Because I think for us to move forward under Potter, we're going to have to do something like that. I think we'd miss him. I think we'd miss some leadership. I think we'd have to replace that. But I think he's improving as well, by the way, under Potter. But he can only improve so much. He's 30. And I do think if what we're going to do is try and become more progressive with the ball, a little bit more intelligent with the ball, and have a little bit more technique in the midfield, we're probably best placed doing that by getting a player that fits what Potter wants to do, rather than the small improvements that Soucek might make. He's certainly passing the ball more. And I think the way we're playing this season, which is pragmatist Potter, will become less and less. I think he'll always be a pragmatist. Don't get me wrong. I think he'll always, and people have said this about his time at Brighton, he's not afraid to change tactics. Well, I think you can do that, but maybe you just, it doesn't mean At the moment, he has a load of players who are used to playing the Moyes way, and I don't think ultimately that's how he'll play most of the time. So Coufal, we can't do anything about it. They're fullbacks. So it's Seamus Coleman, Ashley Young, which is ironic given his name. They're both ancient. So I think Soucek is like 3 years younger than Ashley Young. He's not 3 or 4 years. Coufal. You can understand why that would happen. I think he deserves a payday, Coufal. I don't think he's ever been on huge wages at West Ham. If he were to go to Everton and get a 2-year contract at 50 grand a week, I wouldn't begrudge him that at all. But I can actually see this happening. I think this is believable. It really is. And I would, as I say, would wish him all the luck in the world. Be interested to know what you think. Yeah, but I wouldn't be disappointed if we kept him. Not at all. Not at all. There are a number of players who I would want out at West Ham far quicker than Tomas Soucek, I tell you that now. Well, I'd get rid of Soler before I got rid of Soucek. That's the truth. Certainly get rid of Rodriguez, Danny Ings. Soucek is a first-team player. I think it's whether Soucek would, under Potter, be content with being a bench player, which I think is ultimately what he needs to be, which is playing sometimes, not all the time. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Is it curry or is it Chinese?